February 11th, 1861. Abraham Lincoln, the President-elect of the United States, has just left Springfield, Illinois for Washington, D.C., where he will be inaugurated in 3 weeks. At the same time, the railroad company in charge of transporting the soon-to-be president to his final destination begins to hear rumors of the plot to assassinate Lincoln when the train stops in Baltimore, as an itinerary of his travels had been given to the press. Unsure of what to do, the head of the railroad company enlists the help of Allan Pinkerton, a Scottish immigrant and founder of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, to stop this attempt. Pinkerton and his detectives, including Timothy Webster and Kate Warren, succeed in preventing the assassination by hastening Lincoln's arrival in Baltimore, thus catching the assassins off guard and unable to attack while Lincoln was in the city. Lincoln was inaugurated on March 4th, thanks to the cunning work of these detectives. Only a month later, on April 12th, the Confederate Army fired their cannons on Fort Sumter, officially starting the Civil War. Throughout the war, both the Confederacy and the Union used spies to gain an advantage over the other side. While the Confederates had an intricate net of spies stationed in Washington since the start of the war, it took the Union Army longer to catch up, as each general had their own military intelligence system, and none of the systems interacted with the others. However, Pinkerton, Warren, and Webster would all prove to be crucial to developing the counterintelligence force in Richmond.
President Lincoln, I trust you remember the Pinkerton National Detective Agency from the Baltimore assassination plot that we stopped merely 2 fortnights ago. I wish to offer our services again in obtaining information on the movements of the traitors, or safely conveying your letters or dispatches. I swear that we will not disappoint you. Sincerely, Allan Pinkerton.
Looky here. General McClellan has responded to your request.
McClellan? That old boy? Strange. I sent my letter to Lincoln directly. Well, out with it then. What did the general say?
I request your presence in Washington. Please bring your best detectives. You will need them for military espionage. What does this mean for the agency, sir?
We go. Our general needs our service. We will leave for Washington immediately. Of course, you and Webster will come too. And bring your best female detectives. Lord knows we will need them.
Of course, sir. So if you see here, if the Confederates...
Kate, I've just got a hell of a note. The Confederates have spies in Washington. There may be some in this very room.
Well, of course they're going to have spies here, Al. What were you expecting?
I didn't need that from you, Kate. What do we do?
We do the same. We need Union spies in Richmond.
What do you suggest? I cannot just send anybody off into Confederate territories.
Webster. No one else is as charming, not even the women. He would be able to befriend any rebel he met, and they wouldn't even know a thing.
I knew you could help me, Kate. What would I do without you? Timothy, old boy, I have a favor to ask you. You see, there's this thing going on across the border, and all of them help us. I have no idea what's going on. We need people down in Richmond, so what do you say?
It is my honor and duty to accept this mission, Mr. Pinkerton. If I disguise myself as a courier, crossing the border into rebel territories will be a cinch.
Al, we've got our first report from Webster. He says he's managed to both get a permit to travel throughout the rebel states and that he's now the personal courier for the Confederate Secretary of War.
Lord almighty. How? When?
Within this past week. He says that he's obtained the permit by delivering letters from one of the generals to his son across the border. And with him as the courier for the Secretary of War, he'll be able to send us Confederate documents alongside his own reports. But there is a problem. His reports go on for pages and pages.
We'll need a team of operatives to look over them then. I will take a look. You as well, Kate, will review them.
Of course, sir. Looky here, Al. He even wrote the price of a supper in Richmond.
Kate, I'm worried about Webster. It's not like him to go missing like this. I'm gonna send some operatives down to Richmond.
Yeah. Lewis! Scully? You men must cross the border into the Confederacy and obtain information on the whereabouts and state of Timothy Webster. Report back to headquarters as quickly as allowed. Al, Lewis and Scully's report is here. It doesn't look too good.
Well, out with it then. What's happened to Webster?
He had the screws. That must have been why the report stopped coming. Some of our operatives who had gone to Richmond after him were caring for him. Someone saw Lewis and Scully walking around and recognized them as operatives for the Union, and they got captured. But one of them must have blabbed about Webster because they were released. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got this report. Webster's been captured. They're gonna hang him out. He's been sentenced to death.
This must be stopped. I'll write President Lincoln and ask him for assistance. There must be something we can do.
At Pinkerton's request, Lincoln wrote to President Davis, threatening to hang captured Confederate spies if Webster was hanged. Sadly, this did not change the Confederacy's mind, and Webster was hanged on April 29, 1862. He was later buried in Allen Pinkerton's personal burial lot. 6 months later, George McClellan was relieved from duty. Pinkerton and his detectives left Washington out of respect for their employer. With them went their knowledge of the Confederate Army and the first espionage system, the first spies of the Civil War.